Okay, everybody, it is now 2 o'clock. Those of you who are like me and you are on time all the time, thank you guys for showing up to today's webinar. We appreciate your time. Hopefully some of you guys are using this hour to double time and get some food in your system as well. And our goal today is to inform you on some great new strategies that could help you guys acquire new vehicles, or excuse me, late model used vehicles from the for sale by owner market. So today's webinar title is 5 social media strategies that drive ready to sell customers into your dealership. And we're going to cover how simple social media strategies are helping dealers cut ad costs and acquire late model trade-ins. Today, I'm not doing this solo. I'm joined by a long-term associate and peer of mine, somebody I've worked with for almost 10 years now, Jody Vanderlaan. She is a paid media manager at Force Marketing. Jody, introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you.
Hi, thanks for joining us today. Yeah, like Eric said, I have been in the automotive realm in marketing for 10 years, and all of those have been with Force, which I'm thankful for. I have some knowledge of video, display, social, programmatic, and we work with over 400 dealers. So this webinar is right up my alley, and I'm looking forward to speaking a little bit about it.
Fantastic, fantastic, and you know, she's modest. Jody has really brought some great strategies to place from our entire holdings company. Her and I work hand in hand together on some new projects that are really yielding great return for some of our accounts. So we are super excited today to talk to you about those with a little bit more specificity. One of the things we always like to start with is family. We call ourselves a family of brands. I'll touch on that in a minute. But it's important that we show you our why. So this is me and my beautiful family. This is Jody and her beautiful family. We both have young kids, so we're obviously hustling and bustling, showing them the best way to approach this. And then speaking more on family, we are part of the same family of brands. So if you're familiar with Force Marketing, it's been around in the vertical for about 16 years now. Over 100 associates. And they manage hundreds of accounts. I don't know the exact count specifically, but WeDrive Automotive is actually a part of the Force family of brands. We focus on very specific channels and collaborate often with digital integration, which Jody and her team manage for us at scale. So we're going to be touching on those specific channels and how those specific channels can help you efficiently acquire late model trade-ins from the buy owner selling market. A little bit about the holdings company itself. As an aggregate, we work with over 860 dealership rooftops. We work with most of the large publicly traded and privately owned top 25 auto groups in the country. Over 100 marketing experts, and I do not disqualify the word expert because we have some phenomenal people that work for us, very, very seasoned. I couldn't even count the number of years in combination, which has yielded us some great growth over the last few years, specifically coming out of the pandemic. And on a monthly basis, we spend over $800,000 just in the social media space. So that's not necessarily meant to impress you, but more so impress upon you that we are fully qualified to walk you through these strategies, give you some insights. We obviously have A/B tested thousands of campaigns. We know what works. Today's agenda is pretty quick and concise. My goal is to get it done in under 50 minutes. So be patient with us, leaving us about 10 minutes for QA. We're going to start by going over the current automotive sales and operational state of the union. I think it's important to see where do we stand currently right now in the vertical, how can it apply to me now and over the next few months. Then we're going to jump right into the meat and potatoes of the program. 5 social media strategies that drive ready to buy customers into your dealership. We're going to unpack that from the data that you should be using to the way you should be measuring performance and desired outcomes. We're going to give you a detailed checklist to figure out if what you're doing is actually working for you. It's simple, it's concise, and it's very effective. And we're going to be telling you how you can change your mind frame from a cost per unit sold, excuse me, to a cost per vehicle acquired. And that is one of the most important things that we can do in the time period where we're somewhat depressed on the new car side and we're looking for used car vehicles to acquire, we have to change our methodology of how we approach our budget and our budgeting to see how many cars can we buy that we can resell less wholesale. We're going to give you a simple formula to do that. And lastly, from a content perspective, we're going to show you some real results of dealers that utilize this strategy in Q2, had phenomenal success. And then we're going to have some fun, and we're going to give away 3 American Express or Amazon gift cards to 3 lucky attendees who stay through the completion of the webinar right before the QA section. We're going to be handing these off to 3 lucky people, so stay on. You might be one of those. There's only a few hundred people that have joined us today, so your odds are in your favor. Just to touch on that, again, stay to the end. You have a great chance of winning. I'm going to reiterate that. And now I'm just going to jump into the current automotive sales and operational state of the union. This last year and a few months has been somewhat of a roller coaster. And I absolutely love this GIF that was given to me by one of my clients. And he said, this is one picture that represents how I felt for the last 15 months. And I figured I'd share it with you. You know, we basically go from this fear of what the outcome is going to be from these uncontrollable circumstances, first with the pandemic, having to shut our doors, then coming out of that better than ever, tightening up our budgets, tightening up our processes, retraining our staffs, getting better staff, right? As I like to say in the business, cutting fat. And then we went to this period of joy where we bounced out with mass elasticity, we were crushing numbers, and then just to be put back into our place with the microchip shortage and very, very limited new car inventory. And we've been riding that issue and waiting for the hammer to drop now for the last handful of months. And all the meanwhile, the market's getting these headlines left and right that are saying inventory, is extremely low, lowest it's ever been, worst time to buy a car, you can't buy a car, computer chip shortages are causing dealers to go out of business, which is not the case. Automakers run into new inventory, consumers' patience are being tested, right? And one of the things that I'm a big fan of is I don't watch the news, I don't read the news, okay? Because the news is misleading. And while we are truly in a state of crisis, we are not in a state of crisis that's uncontrollable. And because we're such a resilient business and we're filled with such smart business-minded hustlers and bustlers, we're not going to let this crisis go to waste, right? So that brings me to this quote, which is my favorite quote. You will see it in many webinars of mine over the last 12, 15 months, because I firmly believe in this quote that there's opportunity in every crisis. And the majority of our clients have realized that opportunity in Q2, right? Where their inventory has been the most depressed. And the reason for that is supply and demand. When you look at the demand factors in our market, they're the highest they've ever been, right? You have what we'd like to call the perfect storm. And that perfect storm is to the benefit of most new car and even used car dealers, where you are limited supply. Your day supply is in some cases 1/5, 1/6 what it should be in a normalized level. And you have a massive demand for your product because the product's gotten better and better, and consumers are starting to need cars again. The future remains bright for us, and there's a handful of reasons why. When you think about why would people need to buy cars? Why is demand so high? Think about these 3 things. You got people going back to work. I'm sitting right now in my office that I haven't been in with consistency for over a year. Okay, most of my employees are working kind of flex hours, coming in and coming out when they can. Most of these people, our average salary rates, they receive a stimulus check, so they have a little bit of cash influx. Unemployment levels are back to their normalized level. They're no longer 14%. So people are back at work. They're having to go back to work in person. Okay. And then the stock market took an all-time high over the last year and a half. We've been on a tear. So those who have invested have yielded some returns there as well. So you got to look. There's a cash influx into the market. There's a demand for vehicles. You have a lot of consumers that do not want to take public transportation anymore for their fear of the different variants of COVID. That's also adding to it. They do not want to take ride shares because they're not aware of the cleanliness of the vehicles. That's adding to it. But all of that, again, is in the dealer's favor. And all of that is showing in the results that we've seen. I mean, just through May, we were up almost 38,000 units year over year, period over period. That's a golf clap by any means when you think about how resilient the industry is, because before we could sell cars, now we don't even have cars to sell, and for some reason we're still selling more cars, right? It shows you how capable we are when we put our minds to it. So great job, and the SARS has just been trending better and better as we review it, right? And you look at it, a lot of OEMs had record months. A lot of OEMs had record months coming out of Q2. Hyundai, Toyota, and Honda just being a handful of those. They're up year over year, almost 56% at Hyundai. That's phenomenal. Simultaneously, prices of vehicles are at an all-time high. The average customer spending, north of $38,000 a copy on new cars, right? The demand for higher priced vehicles like trucks and SUVs are at an all-time high, right? Make up about 70% of the total sales market right now. So you think about those variables, new cars being close to 40 grand, used cars being close to 24, when just a couple of years ago, they were close to 16. And then trade-ins and wholesales being at the highest they've ever been. You can see that uptick, that little hockey stick effect in the bottom right-hand corner of the chart. All these variables support the ability for the dealers to transition from volume models to gross. And a very good dealer friend and dealer partner of mine said, volume is vanity, gross is sanity, and he's never changed his model, and he's healthier than ever while he's selling less cars, right? And we've really transformed the business to that. We've done a great job. So this is just talk about some of the macroeconomics that are impacting the business at its current state. Jody's going to jump in here so I don't continue to go on a tear and talk to you guys about the microeconomics that are provided to her from some of her partners, some of the partners like Google and Facebook, right, and Instagram, and and Bing, where they provide us insights into different details that they're capturing at scale of what the market trends look like. And right now, all those trends are in and around the vehicle acquisition efforts of the car dealers. So Jody, I'm gonna hand it off to you. You can touch on some of these great charts you put together for us.
Yeah, so we, with our great partnerships, have just collected some data and found that 70% of owners are interested in selling their car that are interested right now. So those search terms, all of that are up drastically by 70%. And 46% expect they understand that their car is worth more right now. So they are looking into that and are interested in moving forward. So with the owners, we're also learning that search behavior reflects this as customers seek proprietary and confidential opportunities to sell their vehicles at higher than ever prices. So you'll see here, we are seeing higher, searches for those bigger brands like Truvana. So it's so important to really go after with your smaller realm to move forward and really make sure your targeting is on point. So we're going to talk about the strategies that drive your ready to sell customers into your dealership. So we need to make sure that we really focus on first party data. And with your first party data, you need to use your data to your advantage. So you're going to maximize your data to reach your customers who may be ready to sell. So a lot of times, and especially with Facebook, we are focusing on a lot of them have just interest audiences. So what we do is bring in their first party data, and believe it or not, first party data is an uncommon practice for dealerships when really that's your low hanging fruit.
Yeah, and I could touch on this too. I mean, one of the things that we really focus on as a unit is utilizing that first party, or what we like to call that foundational audience in every channel that we execute, right? On the WeDrive side, we're heavily integrated in email, direct marketing, all things personalized. But as a holdings company, we execute omni-channel campaigns at scale. And the foundation of all of our campaigns really exists with the database. So one of the things that we recommend dealers do is start by segmenting out your data. Know who your trade cycle audiences are. Know who's got expiring leases coming up. Know your service only audience. and make sure you're fully aware of your lost or recovery audience, and if that's growing or shrinking. It should always be shrinking. You should always be reactivating, re-engaging those customers. And the misperception or misunderstanding of Facebook is that a lot of times when we talk to dealers in onboarding, we very quickly find out they're not aware that they can use first-party data and target those audiences with profile match campaigns. They're not aware that we can use first-party data to create the best profile of our ideal customer, and then mimic that in some of our third-party efforts. And Jody can touch on that in the next slide, but that's the first thing you have to do before starting any campaign, any channel, but primarily on Facebook, is start with your first-party data, identifying the lowest hanging segments of people who are in the market to trade their vehicles. Jody will talk to you a little bit about kind of identifying their loyalty levels as well, and how we use Facebook audiences to do that.
Yeah, so with your first-party data, obviously we can grab data from your database and CRM, and what we do is we find out of those people where's your money going to go, and to make sure that these people are in market or whatever bucket that would be in. So that's your first-party data. What we do with that is also can, on top of that, combine that with similar audiences, or what most people will use is interest. Now with interest, you're in a broad range, which is why we really focus on that first party data. That way we have your super loyalists paired with your loyalists. Now what's different is that in most realms, the similar customers are your biggest bucket, whereas for us, we use that as our smallest. So we really, really focus on our first party data in order to get there.
Yeah, this slide really resonates when you said that, right? Because we've really flipped the funnel as an organization. We're focusing on the lowest funnel opportunities, which are your transactional customers, your loyal customers, right? So it starts with audience segmentation, and then we take a bottom-up approach. We're going to target those specific segmented audiences with specific creative. We're going to touch on conquest ownership and captive ownership in your market. Outside of that, it's the similar nameplates. And then we're going to go a layer beyond that into the interest-based markets, right? The in-market shopper, pre-market shoppers, and lookalike audiences. Jody, provide some color on why this model versus maybe the initial model you were introduced to, even when we were first learning about Facebook, makes a lot more sense from an engagement perspective.
Sure. Well, with your first party data, these people have already been into your dealerships a lot of times. And then we're able to know that they recognize your dealership. We understand that they're familiar. We want to make sure we also know the life length of what's going on. So they might be ready to trade in their vehicle, or we know that they are up for an expiring lease soon. So these people are ready to go. And then on top of that, we can complement them with these additional buckets.
Yeah, and creative too. I mean, one of the things that I love is my team's constantly in the reporting platform that we customize around Facebook, and our average account runs about 4 different ad units at one time. And the funniest thing that I can compare to just 4 or 5 years ago is it used to always be one and be the full allotment of budget. And now it'll show you trade cycle, first party, and trade offer, expiring lease, first party, and lease termination offer, captive owner, increased offer, engaged user, call extension ad. It gives you very specific creative and very specific calls to action based off the audiences. And what I've noticed is that the performance analytics have just skyrocketed once we started doing that, versus kind of putting all of our eggs in one basket. And which leads me into actually which ad units do work the best, which ad units do we recommend for acquisition based efforts, specifically in a depressed new car market like this. And I'll actually start with one of the latest ad units that we just got through beta on, and we're seeing just phenomenal results, which is the Facebook call extension campaigns. And there's not many agencies doing this right now. It was initially in alpha, and now it just surpassed the beta phase. We are going to provide some more detail on that. But Jody, tell me a little bit about what you're seeing with the first of all, explain what a call extension campaign is and how it differentiates from some of the others. And then we'll go into where you think the best audiences are for a call extension campaign.
Sure. So what's really awesome about this is they've recently introduced, like Eric was saying, where the call extension, once you click on it, on the ad, it goes to the website where that call button, as you can see on the image there, pops up, which is awesome because all you have to do for the user is they click that call button. Maybe they don't feel comfortable, typing in their information, all of that. So it's a quick way where they can simply click one button and it calls directly. So we've seen a huge increase in inbound calls, up to 400% when we've been recently testing this out, and it's been incredibly successful.
Yeah, and it's pretty cool. So just to kind of put some emphasis on the layout of the ad and the trackability of it, right? We've always run different formats of lead ads or appointment ads, and we've had success. But when you talk to dealers and you're in the trenches, doing performance calls, and I'm in a lot of them every month, and the number one thing they ask for is calls. We want more calls. First it's foot traffic and then calls. But this ad extension and this call extension campaign now bridges that gap for them through Facebook as a channel. And the funny thing is they've been kind of sitting on it, and as soon as they deployed it, it was massively successful. So they kind of knew what they had in their pocket. Seeing up to a 400% increase in overall call volume over traditional lead volumes from lead campaigns or lead submissions is an overwhelming stamp of approval to the success potential of this type of ad extension in Facebook. And we can target the right audiences with it, which I'll let you touch on. But I think the reason why we're seeing so much success also has to do with the way the personnel is managing it. So we'll touch on that in a couple of slides, but I'll let you jump into the recommended audiences for this particular type of program with the vehicle acquisition methodology in mind.
Yeah, so what we do is with our data, we're able to identify the locations of like your top trade-ins. So we can use that using the database too, like we were saying with our first party, and really find those people that are interested in trading in their vehicle. And then another option is our engaged users. So those are people that have maybe been to your website. We can get as granular as that specific page and maybe never converted for many reasons. Maybe they didn't want to fill it out, whatever. So that's what's so nice about the call is it's just a comfortable click to call and they're able to get directly to a person.
Yeah, I love that, right? Because one of the things that we've all tried to do and is prove the thesis, which is no longer a thesis, the proven fact that omni-channel marketing is more successful than single channel marketing, right? On top of that, it needs to be omni-channel marketing with optional ways to communicate. And when you think about the way that these ad units have been built out, there's typically been 1 to 2 different ways to actually communicate and heavily weighted towards form fills, manual input or validation of information that's pre-populated in a submission field. They have to press submit to go to another page to confirm a disclaimer to go to another page. And while that is still wildly successful for some dealers, there's a lot of erroneous submissions, and there's a lot of people who don't want to provide that information even through the validation part of it. And giving them the opportunity to call, right, is the best thing you can do, because those customers may see an offer that's appealing to them, and rather than submitting a lead and waiting for somebody to respond to them and forgetting about it, now they're making an action where they're connecting with a customer right away, which brings me to the strategy of this, right? Because this is a real-time connection. It's just like any other ad method you send out with a trackable phone number. It is going to go directly to a line that you want to route it to. So the strategy is actually more from the operational side of things than it is the execution. You need to silo out this lead source. You need to make sure you have somebody that's dedicated to managing it. And you need to appropriately script them on what kind of feedback, what kind of script they should be using when answering the call. The beautiful thing about setting up a call tracking number in the ad extension is you can actually track it and provide a whisper. So they're even informed before they pick up the phone call for the customer that this call is coming from this campaign, right? They could queue up their offer or their script, and it can be managed to a much better expectation. One of the other things we're seeing massive success with is the immediate transition from call to text as an option if the customer will opt in. So we're seeing a lot of our clients actually take the calls and then say, hey, are you open to us communicating via text for your convenience, right? All we need to do is send you an opt-in, and they'll do that. And once they do that, that's another optional channel of communication, right? And text is a little bit less intrusive than a phone call, right? 98% of texts are read. So that's a great statistic to go by. It's over 80% of texts are replied to. So that's another great statistic to go by, right? So we want to transition them as quickly as we can from the live call, if we can't schedule an appointment on that first touch, to the text as an optional communication channel. Had a lot of success with that, and it's something that our team has trained our accounts on so they can manage that at scale. And then as it pertains to outcomes, right? We're focused on leads, right? And a phone call is one of the most potent leads that you can get on any channel, right? Because you're having live communication. Dealers spend thousands upon thousands of dollars training their teams on product, training their teams on call handling, hiring different employees to handle different lead sources, paying for CRM, using offset companies to manage your inbound calls to make sure that they're optimized, right? So all around calls. So driving those calls has driven our actual cost per call in the scenarios where we're utilizing call extension ads down to $16.50 per call. So the question then becomes to dealerships. If I'm sending out a very pointed message to offer more for a trade or to buy a car off of a customer who's in trade cycle because I started with a curated audience and know exactly what year, make, model they own and where they're at in their loan process, and then I provide them the option to call, how would you weight that lead against a submission or form fill? When I ask these questions, the dealers typically tell us they weight it much heavier. They feel like they can close those at a higher clip, right? Which brings me to, we're seeing simultaneously a spike in calls when we drop these campaigns. So we're not only seeing a low cost per call, but we're seeing in some cases up to 400% increase period over period of inbound calls. So not only are you getting volume, but you're also getting quality. So it's a great ad unit specifically pointed around vehicle acquisition. Let's start the conversation on a call. Let's tell that customer they have to come in to get their trade appraised in person so they can identify any of the potential reconditioning factors, see what the actual condition is, and give them an actual offer in person. And then for those who are in that place of where you can handle it, even offer, your team will come out and do a trade appraisal at their home, make it convenient. But the outcomes have been, the outcomes you can expect are an increase in calls, a lower cost per call conversion, and a higher sale through rate of call conversions with this particular ad unit, which actually brings us to another really underutilized ad unit from the dealer perspective, right? There are a lot of companies, including WeDrive, Automotive, who've capitalized on messenger campaigns for dealers and managing those. And the number one reason why messenger campaigns are working so well right now, and the reason why it's our number 3 ad strategy you have to adopt in the back half of 2021 to acquire vehicles, is because you're immediately, again, connecting your prospect with a real person in a conversation, giving them the opportunity to drive them down funnel, asking real discovery questions. But just for those who aren't aware of what a messenger ad actually is, technically speaking, Joey, can you give us some insight and give us just a kind of predefined, definition of what that might be?
Sure. So Facebook Messenger essentially just brings your sales team right into Facebook, which is really nice. There's not a lot of steps involved. The user would simply click on send message and it goes directly, and you're able to really just get into what they need. That's what's nice about these offers as well. With the data that we're able to utilize for these campaigns, we already know that these people are ready. They've been searching this. They want to maybe get a cash offer for their car.
That's awesome. Yeah. So, I mean, think about this. It's the easy button for the customer. I have a question, may not want to call you. Again, communication optionality. I may not want to text you and give you my cell phone, But if I can open up a chat dialogue with you, ask you my question, and you can answer my question in real time, I'm that much further along in my decision-making process. And that's what messenger ads do if managed properly. As far as the audiences go, they're somewhat redundant to what we would do in the normalized offer ads, in the way that we target, geographical areas, specifically using sales and service data from the database. And we're looking at in-market market share analytics, and that in this scenario where there is a big difference is that we are boosting these ads as well. So we're not only, hyper targeting them with a sniper rifle, but we're also doing kind of a spray and pray. We want to hit everybody within a small radius. It's way more cost effective from a cost per prospect. And since we're starting with where are they selling and servicing at the highest clips, where are they taking the top trades, we at least have a very pointed area of opportunity to target with a boosted ad, keeping your cost down, your reach high, and being able to utilize a higher frequency of deliverability of those ads as well. So all of it starts with data. But then the best strategy for this type of campaign, the strategy we've seen work the best, is threefold, right? You want to have a targeted ad unit, you want to have a boosted ad unit, both with the option to message for more information. Use the data, buy the data, right? And then just spray and pray in the market, target the market using the data. Secondly, you have to have somebody that can respond quickly. There are a number of different chat widgets that do auto response. You can build a dialogue utilizing artificial intelligence or just kind of smart responders. They're inexpensive. I recommend those, but I recommend those to fill the gap from the time that the initial message lead inquiry comes in and your customer or a product specialist internally can respond. But you need a human being eventually to answer these questions, to drive these down with any level of efficiency. What we use our internal BDC that's staffed, from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m., 7 days a week. They're responding messages, and then when they're absent in those time gaps, we have autoresponders that say no one's working during these operating hours to respond, but we'll get back to you first thing in the morning at 7 a.m. And it seems to work a lot better. You can provide them links to credit approval pages. You can provide them links to trade evaluation pages. You can provide them customized offers and certificates. You can create a landing page should you want to. And the entire point is to drive them to an appointment to come in, either trade or take a test drive, right? Depending on what your goal is. And the outcomes that we're seeing are crazy. I mean, we're seeing an average cost per lead, and the lead would be a message inquiry in this scenario, of $17. $17 may not be great to some of you, but from a totally conquest audience, for me, that's extremely low. We're seeing an average cost per appointment scheduled, so appointments logged in the CRM, of $58, and an average cost per show of $84. So then, dealers, marketing managers, the question you ask yourself is, would I spend $84 to get a customer in here for the potential to buy their vehicle? Because that's where we're at right now, right? And I would do that if I knew that I started with the right audience and what models they drove, and that I could take those vehicles and I could resell them. And these numbers were taken from over a year, so they're not just applicable to Q2. These are over a year's time with these programs. And the goal really is just to flood your appointment logs, to get as many people as you possibly can in, to see as much inventory as you can. You should have appraisers literally lined up back to back to back, appraising vehicles in person. But this program does work extremely well when executed properly. Which brings us to our fourth ad unit, which is dynamic offer ads. And dynamic offer ads are a little bit different depending on what your goal is. But we like to utilize a couple different ad units together as offer ads. One of them featuring video and dynamic imagery. Joey, tell us a little bit about what an offer ad is, what it does for dealers, why it's of value.
Yeah, so offer ads are, they've kind of been around since the beginning. When I first started working in Facebook, this was one of the original types, and it's because it works. So they're pretty self-explanatory. It's good for to get more local traffic and get more sales. It allows you, like Eric had said, choose from, you can do conversions, website traffic, store traffic, and even to boost retention. So we're really finding, you know, you can really hit home with some of these straightforward Facebook offer ads. And we do utilize, you know, audiences as well, because you're going to want to really target people that are looking to either trade in their vehicle or purchase their vehicle. So.
Yeah. I mean, the audiences, you know, it's funny. I was talking to an ad exec for a very, very major advertising agency that does some major work. And he was talking about one of the largest independents, and I'm not going to name any names, but I might just drop back to this slide for a second, that's spending north of $1 million a month in Facebook advertising nationally, utilizing offer ads to a very pointed trade page. And they're acquiring vehicles at a record clip. And they also just came out of Q2 with record revenue and income, you know, in their quarterly reporting. So I would tell you guys that it's like the old reliable. It still works phenomenally when you actually are, you know, hyper targeted with who you're going at, the right geos and the right offer. Those three things have to happen. So it should be part of almost every month's ad mix. You should be providing some kind of call to action or offer, or the ability to get a quote. One of the things that I would tweak slightly about the strategy that we've seen increased results around is adding in dynamic video features. You know, one of the challenges with Facebook is that while Facebook is massively successful for the automotive vertical, it's also massively successful for almost every other small to medium to large business in the world that's using their ad applications. So one of the challenges that you have is cutting through the clutter of the news feed of your normal customer, your normal prospect. And nothing does that better, and it shows in the analytics, than dynamic video ads. And what I mean by that is video ads that have, you know, motion graphics, but also even video ads that have dynamic functionality in the offers. So two of the ads you're actually looking at on this screen are an offer where the primary message is, we want your trade, we'll give you more than $1,000 for it. We're also actually pulling in a live feed of the inventory that we have, inclusive of pre-order inventory that you don't have, right? Give the customer the perception that you have more vehicles than you currently do. And secondly, which is really cool, is a dynamic video in and around the ability to test drive from home. So when you think about customers that are pre-market, right, which is an audience selected that's available, and you think about the fact that they're not really going to be in the market for 3 to 6 months, you know, you could send them the offer and the video to take a dynamic test drive from home while they start their research process. The average customer is not buying a car in the first 30 days from the time they start researching. So you have to target different levels of audiences. Your in-market, your ready to sell, and your pre-market are some of those audience levels that really apply to these acquisition efforts. So utilizing a trade-in offer may not be applicable to a pre-market audience, where if utilizing a test drive offer, specifically a virtual test drive offer, where they don't have to lift a finger, they can do it on their mobile phone or do it at their home and start their research process. Maybe find out something they don't know about one of the vehicles you have available, or even that you don't have yet, 2022 models, is a great way to capitalize on that pre-market audience. And then driving them to a pointed landing page. Make sure that your goal is to get them to a place where you're measuring conversion against the ad spend. Is kind of our end game, and we're seeing that that strategy works extremely well, and it's yielding a massive increase for us from conversions from those pointed landing pages. So what we did, we tested a 3-month over 3-month period over period breakdown of clients of ours that were running the strategy with those two different ad units, and we saw 134% increase in both test drive conversions and trade appraisal conversions off the 2 pointed landing pages that we're driving to. So again, we start thinking about, what does that look like, and what does that mean in the way of opportunity? You spend $1,000 here, $1,000 there to drive thousands of people to a landing page, and you sell 4 or 5 cars, or you take 4 or 5 vehicles in on trade that you resell at our normal $3,400 per gross per copy. You know, you can see how that ROI compounds off of this ad. So again, just want to talk about that and that strategy. Go video if you can. Go dynamic video if you can. You are now at the cutting edge of the automotive marketing technology when you can integrate inventory or offers into the video. And then it leaves you with the point where you never really have to change the content. It can remain evergreen in and around the trade value, which is also a long-term savings for you as well. And then last but not least is, as far as ad strategies that we recommend, is LinkedIn. And I'm going to let Jody take lead on this, because it appeals to a different audience. But Jody, tell us a little bit about LinkedIn lead ad campaigns and what you're seeing in the market.
Yeah, so LinkedIn is an awesome option. It's something that I think is the perception of just being business to business, but really we're finding that LinkedIn is really turning into a lot more than that, a lot of B2C now. We're seeing like a 60% increase in newsfeed traffic and people interacting. So it's just, we're seeing a 50% increase in members engaging, and then just more volume overall. So it's a really good option to showcase these ads as well. It also is nice because it has different targeting capabilities than your other standard platforms, such as Facebook. So with LinkedIn, you can go after, you can use first-party data, which obviously we utilize a lot. And then you also, which is nice, is you can go after different job titles. You can go after different industries, depending on where you're trying to target. And we're also seeing a higher just click-through rate overall on LinkedIn, more interaction, especially when it comes to leads. So we are finding on our end some really great results doing this as well.
Yeah, and forgive me if I'm incorrect, because I actually haven't run nearly as many LinkedIn ads, and you kind of put me onto this a few months ago from a B2C perspective, and I was actually one of those, who were misperceived to say, no, that's B2B, that works for commercial vehicles and maybe only that, but you really were able to dial into some of the analytics. How much higher of a click-through rate are you typically seeing with LinkedIn ads over your traditional Facebook lead ads?
Yeah, we're seeing around like a 3 times higher, which is really nice overall. And then also on the conversion ends, we're seeing a super high rate of conversions. In our end specifically, we're seeing a lot more lead-based results, which has been obviously effective for our clients.
Yeah, so we ran a campaign a couple of months ago, and it was really cool because you were able to show me, and it was a Highline dealer that we could target people specifically by job title, and the dealer has now increased their budget, been doing it every single month since. So I'm a believer, and one of the things that I really liked about the strategy is we kind of dialed into more the core principles of the strategy. We maxed out the frequency levels. And when I asked you, I said, hey, doesn't that seem a little bit high? And you had come back and said, no, because it doesn't have the adoption rate Facebook does, right? So, you can't use the same frequency levels as Facebook, because that's the only thing I had to compare it with. And we were targeting these prospects 4 to 5 times a week, knowing that they're not, engaging as much as they are on Facebook, and we have less chance of actually them seeing the ad itself. But the click-through rates being 3x higher for the same budgets was really what drove it home for me, that this is a tremendous opportunity in the automotive vertical. There are not enough dealers who have adopted this from a B2C perspective. We've run a lot of B2B campaigns, commercial vehicles and things like that, both from a tier 2 and tier 1 perspective. But we have not really seen too many do it just from the independent or the tier 3 franchise dealer. And then for the handful of campaigns we've executed here in the last 3 months, I'm really seeing the results. And the strategy is simple, man. It's almost the same execution strategy as Facebook, just increase frequency, right, by about 25%, and you're going to get a much higher click-through rate. And then from an outcome perspective, forgive me if, tune me up if I'm incorrect here, but really the goal is, where are you landing these people? And then let's measure some period over period conversion, right? Tell us a little about how you UTM LinkedIn, things like that, how your clients are able to see their increases in conversions. So our clients, our viewers, here understand how they can measure success here.
Yeah, so we've seen a 134% increase in trade appraisals. So it's just incredible, honestly. Like, we're driving these people to the sites. We're seeing a lot of results on the back end. So yeah, just continuing to see good results there.
Are you primarily getting those details out? You're getting those details out of analytics, right?
Correct.
Perfect. Yeah. So again, guys, you can go to one central point of conversion, identify how all your analytics are working, but specifically silo out these campaigns on LinkedIn. And I know they're supported with a very detailed UTM structure that shows up. So you can see all the traffic that's gone there, time on site, right? If the customers have left, page bounces, and how many conversions. And you can even set goals to it. And that's something that we're seeing. We're smashing those goals when we set them in analytics. So again, this brings me to, one of the things that I talked about at the beginning, and I always try to begin with the end in mind, but I said we have to start thinking about how we can change our mindset when we're spending dollars from acquisition versus units sold, right? So I put CPVA versus CPV, cost per vehicle acquisition versus cost per unit sold. How can we easily calculate ROI off of an acquisition marketing investment? And let's look at just look at the numbers. Okay, this is a 2020 breakdown of the average gross per copy on new vehicles and used vehicles. And it was actually pretty much on par with 2019 or 2018, maybe a little bit up on used. Now that's 2020's ending DA metrics. And now let's look at the first 7 months of 2021 and what that looks like. And wholesale values have reached an all-time high. And they're starting to decline slightly, but they're still way over what they were just 6-7 months ago. So the opportunity is real with regards to increased gross profits, where dealers aren't selling nearly as many vehicles from a volume perspective. Most of our clients are actually making way more money from a gross and a net margin perspective. So when you start thinking about the basic principles of business and gross profit and net profit, this is where this calculation comes in here. So how do we set a vehicle acquisition goal? If I'm going to make an investment to buy cars, how do I know how many cars I'm going to buy? And how should I set my goals? How should I know what kind of return on investment I can expect from that? Because at the end of the day, it really still ends at return on investment. So we ran an analysis on the gross per copy of 100 clients. We took 100 clients that we had access to their database. We took a 3-month period of time. We took their average, their sale that was attributed back to the acquisition programs we ran in Q2. We looked at their gross profit averages, and they fell just above 3,400. But just for a clean analysis, we said let's use 3,400 as a benchmark. So your average used car gross profit was 3,400. Now the average dealer to sell 30 cars would typically make about a $15,000 investment using normal NADA cost per unit sold standards, right? Actually be a little bit low, right? So you think about a $500 cost per unit to sell the cars. Well, let's flip that and make that same investment to buy those cars. $500 cost per unit to acquire, okay? So all it is changing the nomenclature associated with where the investment is being made. Okay, now let's take those same 30 vehicles that we acquired through the campaign, take our average gross per used car copy, and let's add that up. So with a $15,000 investment, I'm using the averages, the law of averages, and I could acquire 30 vehicles through that based off my normal cost per vehicle acquisition. I'm looking at $102,000 gross profit. If I subtract the investment, the vehicle acquisition investment from the marketing cost side, I'm netting $87,000 profit, right, on a $15,000 investment. It's a 6-to-1 ROI for those of you who aren't great at math. And that specifically is how you should look at your marketing acquisition efforts and costing and budgeting when you're going into new car depressed months. You cannot disappear in the marketing space. You cannot not have your brand out there. You cannot tell vehicles, I have cars to sell, right? Change the messaging to, I want to buy your car. You can pre-order a car, right? We'll customize a car for you. You can buy 100% online and we'll deliver it to you. But do not stop spending. Henry Ford, it's my favorite quote of all time. Okay, stopping marketing to save money is like stopping your watch to save time. Okay, we can't stop the momentum that we have coming out of this great Q2 and just expect that we're going to sell cars. It's never worked for anybody. And I will double down on that unless somebody can show me different. So now what we'll do is we'll jump into a detailed checklist to execute these strategies flawlessly. And I'll fly through these just to be respectful of everybody's time here. But basically, there's 6 things you need to be able to maximize your return on investment from all of those ad strategies that we put in place for you. First thing, you need somebody that can manage the Facebook leads and Messenger leads directly, a dedicated resource in turn. That's going to take some human capital. Probably have it already. Who's the smartest, most savviest, well-spoken person that's social media friendly in your business? Maybe you put on their lap until you can get somebody solely dedicated to it. Second thing, you need to have a dedicated Facebook landing page, Facebook profile page, and a trade sale landing page for these programs. Customized specifically to land these ads, these prospects on, and that you can actually measure conversion from. Third thing, you need another person, social media manager. Now, I'm not trying to show you that the costs are climbing, but this is how you effectively maximize your investment. So if you're going to make a serious investment in Facebook, these are things you need. Somebody who's savvy in big Facebook business management tools, somebody who knows how to look and optimize campaigns. Okay. The third thing, you need to install social media chat bots. They're very inexpensive into your custom landing pages. So you can start that communication from your dedicated lead and messenger management team. Fifth thing you need is a direct integration with your CRM via ADF XML format. Most lead sources now or chat sources that have automotive traction have this. And the last thing is you need to think about a very smart way to have autoresponder email set up directly from your CRM, that when that lead source comes in from these particular channels, they are dropped into an email marketing journey. We have a team here that's ready to help customize this for you. But these are the things to truly maximize your return on investment from your social media ad dollars from a vehicle acquisition perspective. 2 other bullets I want to end with. Focus on leads. Don't look at vanity metrics nearly as much as you look at leads. You need to be dialed into what is my cost per lead, what is my cost per sales conversion, okay? And then analyze and adjust. We recommend doing it at a minimum on a bi-weekly basis. Jody, how often are you guys adjusting ad campaigns for clients that have, multiple ad units? How often are you jumping in there reviewing and optimizing?
Oh, all the time. We always are trying to make sure that we're adjusting and optimizing to the best. So I feel like very often daily or weekly. And yeah, a lot.
That's awesome. That's freaking awesome. And then with that dedicated social media resource, make sure they know how to look in and see what's working. Make sure that you're running a blended ad mix. Do not just use one ad unit at a time. You have to run multiple ad units to figure out what's working and to truly be able to optimize that. And then take it a level further. A/B messaging, A/B creative, A/B audiences. And those are things that a seasoned, ad team like Jody's can do for you. But you could also get some really savvy people in the market right now, and there's never been a better market to hire in and around these type of initiatives that can come in and do it directly from your dealership. Now we'll jump into some of the results, and I'm going to let Jody start on this from an aggregate level because she pulled some of this data from me, but I'm going to jump into the independent clients that we have and cover those. But Jody, tell them about what you're seeing from a year-over-year perspective of people from Q2 who ran these strategies.
We were super excited to see these numbers overall, just because of despite we had a 34% decrease of investments year-over-year due to the chip shortage, but we did see a 148% increase in leads year-over-year, which is just incredible. We were super excited to see that. We also, I'll go to the next slide here. Go to the next slide here, Eric. On Kia, one of our stores, we saw a 239% month-over-month increase in leads from a Value My Trade page, which is just really awesome. We saw a cost per appointment lead under $10, cost per sales visit around $46. So we're just showing how you know, these search views are really showing that people are wanting to trade in their car. And then we did see a 362% increase in trade appraisal leads. And this is just the same investment that we're using, just adjusting that copy. And yeah, we're just really excited about seeing these results.
And then this is something that I specifically want to lean into, but you know, clients changing strategy, getting immediate results, period over period, from February to June. One of our clients saw 2,100 and almost 30 leads, utilizing an ad mix between appraisal appointment ads and dynamic video ads. It's a $17 cost per lead based off of their investment, and they're a dominant player in their market. And they're at a much better place now with inventory than most of their competitive peers, right? So again, these strategies work extremely well. And then one of our WeDrive social search clients, 214% year-over-year month-over-month increase in overall sales for the same period of time. 122 of those sales dedicated to appointment schedule directly from the social search team on their behalf, utilizing event messenger ads. Which brings us to the end of the webinar, but the fun part, right? So we talked about, you know, the ability to win some gift cards, and would love to log in and see who the winners are. So bear with me, please. We are going to look at the list, and I had my host highlight it. So 1 second. Awesome, awesome, awesome. We have Hope Schmidt. Hopefully I'm not butchering your name. Hope Schmidt. Hope at valueforward.com. You are a winner. Congratulations. We will be connecting with you via your email. Hopefully get the accurate information you provided us after the webinar to get where you want us to ship that, that gift card. Then we also have, let's see here, we have, sorry, I'm going to the second page because this one is not on the first page. All right, Nivea Fonte. Nivea Fonte, it looks like from McDonough Toyota, which is, we'll be reaching out to you, Nivea, as well. And then our last winner, sorry, scrolling. I haven't seen the yellow line yet. Still haven't seen the yellow line. All right, Emily Callahan. Emily Callahan from, what's the name? There's no dealership name here, but caaugustine.com. You are our third winner. And now what we're going to do is open up our QA to see if there are any questions. And it looks like we only have one that's been queued up, and it is specifically around social search, which is awesome because that's another reason why we do this, guys. We do this so we can obviously earn business partnerships and become a trusted asset for you. And the average cost of a social search campaign, funny you asked that question, it's actually in our next slide, is normally right around $8,000. And we're normally seeing, we reach about 300,000 prospects, generate about 156, 157 appointments with about 120 shows. And we do have a promotion kind of queued up for Labor Day that we're offering any attendees solely on this webinar. 15% off your Labor Day event. It's $1,275 value. If you are looking for a great way to acquire trades going into Labor Day or during the Labor Day weekend, this is a program that's massively successful for us. It's also massively successful for a lot of our dealers. We had, you know, one of our dealers last year who's been running with us for a year straight, and they say whenever they do a social search campaign, they get a month's worth of traffic in a week, right? There's not much else you can say than that to show the success of this program, and they run 2 of these per month, pretty consistent. Which leaves us to thanking you, showing some gratitude. We appreciate your time. You didn't have to spend that hour with us, but we're glad you did. If there was one thing you took away that helps you acquire more vehicles utilizing social media, then we've done our job. This has been massively successful. And if you guys want to contact us directly, if you're looking for any information specific to your PMAs, or if you want to schedule a demonstration, feel free to reach out to us at sales@WeDriveAuto.com. Visit us at WeDriveAuto.com if you want to find out more information about our programs, our strategies, or you could go to forcemktg.com specifically if you're looking for someone to fully manage your social media for you. It would be Jody and her team from onboarding all the way through to attribution. So we appreciate your time. Thank you, Jody, for joining me. I appreciate your insights. Everybody have a phenomenal week.